Okay, good morning, everybody. So, the last class we talked about Maven and other build tools, right? And very briefly, and then jumped into Maven, talk briefly about it. Assuming you had probably gone through Maven videos, even if you didn't, not a big deal at this point, okay? So, today, let's talk about Spring Framework. Let me introduce you to that. So, let me step back here for a second and then let's talk about the typical J2E architecture. So in J2E architecture, it's not J2EE, they are called JEE, Java Enterprise Edition. So when you talk about the architecture there, for a typical web application, so your browser makes a call, right, to the server, and then this is your server. So within the server, your WAR file, your web archive file or web application will be deployed. This is your web container like Tomcat, right? Like Tomcat, there are a lot more web containers. So here, the first thing that will be taken inside your WAR file. So there could be a lot of web applications, right? There could be a lot of web applications. So one of the web applications, let's say, there could be a lot more websites or web applications that can be deployed within a Tomcat. And now here, obviously, every web application will have a web.xml. That is what takes it. Web.xml will be read by Tomcat. And then based on that, it will forward to the appropriate servlet. So servlet and JSP, they come under web layer. Okay? And then this is a web app. This is one web app. Forwarded to the appropriate servlet, so which is a web layer. And then your servlet calls the DAO, right? That comes under data layer. So your web layer calls the data layer, which is your DAO. And DAO, using JDBC, it make a call to database. Database sits outside of your server, somewhere here. So this is database. So using JDBC so far, right? I mean, it can use other fancy technologies later, but using JDBC for now, it's making a call to the database and get back the data and now or store the data. So now the data layer will give it back to the web layer, which is a servlet component. Now that actually gives it to the appropriate JSP page within, both you have your controller and view, both of them are sitting here, which in turn flush the dynamic HTML back to the browser. So we know this picture. So to just zoom in, to put the interested stuff from the browser, essentially, or if I concentrate only on the server side, what happens is we have a web layer, right? We have data layer, and then we have the database, right? So Now, data layer. This is where all the DAOs, your data access objects sit, right? Customer DAO, your product DAO, orders DAO, all those DAOs sit here. And they actually are utilized by your servlets, right? So now, let's say you want to create an order. That order has a lot of products associated with it, and you want to create that order and assign it to a customer, right? So all of that logic currently is done within this web layer, meaning this one is making one create, it calls the orders DAO. It calls the orders DAO to create an order, and then it calls the order details DAO, if at all. If there is a DAO like that, it calls order details DAO to store all of this product information appropriately. And then let's say it needs to update customer DAO with something. Okay, it needs to update some status in the customer DAO, in the customer table, saying that this customer has a pending order. Okay, we need to update that. So these are all different DAOs in data layer, and your web layer is making all of these calls, right? And then if there is any business logic surrounding that, let's say if there is any business logic surrounding that, let's say one customer cannot make more than one order at a time until that order gets shipped. Let's say we have that kind of business rule. All of those business rules will be sitting in the web layer, because data layer should not know anything more than persisting the data into the database or reading the data from database. It should not know anything more than that. So probably the best place to put that at this point is web layer, which is your servlet, right? Now let's talk how fair that one is, how good design to put any business logic into servlet. Let's say our business has we introduce some mobile apps like iPhone apps and Android apps. So in your iPhone and Android apps, there is no concept of servlet. If you are coming from the web browser, you will land at the servlet, and servlet internally will call these data layer components, like all these DAOs, and make the appropriate calls. This is your browser. If at all the request comes from the browser, you will land at the servlet, because you're coming through the proper web app and proper web.xml, and then internally servlet, etc. That may not be the case with your mobile apps, right? So you have your tablet or mobile apps, and they have their own engine here. They have a similar component like your servlet. Okay, let's say mobile web. So it goes to mobile web. That one internally makes the data layer component calls, like how it is doing it. So it gets the data or persists the data. It makes all of these calls. And now if there are any business logics, you need to put those business logics here, saying that, hey, one customer cannot have more than one order at a time. Until that order gets shipped, he cannot place one more. So you end up putting that business logic here, and you have the business logic now in your servlet, in your web, for your traffic that's coming from the browsers, your desktop and laptop applications. And for your mobile applications, you put the business logic here, because it does not make sense, or it's absolutely not a good idea to put that business logic in data layer. Data layer should only worry about retrieving the data and persisting the data, nothing more than that. Okay, make sense? So we are duplicating the business logics here. Is that a good idea? Tomorrow, let's say, your when you place an order, it will automatically place an order with UPS. Let's say UPS is our shipping carrier, logistics company. Okay, UPS is going to deliver whatever the order that you placed at your doorstep. Okay, let's say like Amazon has partnered with UPS, right? Similarly, we also partner with UPS, or better company, because we are competitors for Amazon. So let's say UPS or FedEx, for that matter, right? So this guy needs some information. And how many times in your applications, your business logic is just read the data from the database? Probably very less times. Once you read the data from the database, 9 out of 10 times you have to apply your business rules on top of the data. So where do you put in this case? Are you going to expose your data layer as is to your UPS company and say that, hey, you know what, I'll give you JDBC access to your to my data layer, to my database tables, you go read all of it, you go update? Are you going to do that? Nope. Because 95% of the times, business logic is more than the data. Actually, once you get the data, you have to apply your business rules on top of it. And even to persist the data into the data layer, see, you need to, when customer places an order, you need to insert a record here, update this guy, and update like a shipping DAO, let's say. So all of this information, you have to do it. So who puts that logic, all of that, the main brain? Where are you going to put it? Data layer? Absolutely not a good idea. If you put it here, you'll have to duplicate here and here. So what does it tell us? It tells us that there is a need for one more layer. That's why they introduced between web layer and data layer, there is another layer. That's the actual brain layer called service layer. This one is called service layer. Now, none of these direct clients can interact with the data layer directly. Everybody, your web layer, your servlet cannot talk to the DAO anymore. We will say that, hey, this is our business layer. This is called a service layer or business layer, where you put the real calculation, real business logic, real. Let's say if you're an insurance company, this is where all of the insurance calculations, premiums, everything will happen. If you're a mortgage company, this is where your underwriting goes, whether to approve loan for you or not. So all of the main logic is going to sit in the service layer. If you're an Amazon-like company, this is where you will decide whether customer has placed any order. Again, by going to database, by reading this one, but after that, they will apply the rules. Okay, this is going to be one central layer that your web layer is going to come to, or let me draw the interactions with a different color, or better yet, green maybe. See here, web layer is going to now service layer, and service layer will go to data layer, get the data back, and then if required, apply some business logics or filtering or whatever it needs to do it, and give the sanitized data back to web layer. If there are no business rules, in certain cases, about 10% of the times, service layer acts just as another layer of pass through, meaning it gets the data, it just pass it back to web layer. It doesn't do it, but it still, even in those scenarios, it makes sense to go through the service layer. Servlet skipping the service layer, making a call to DAO is prohibited from today. Reason alone, we have to have a solid service layer, right? So your mobile apps, whatever, these guys have some platform, okay, mobile platform. There are a lot of platforms, right? Like PhoneGap, Ionic, iOS platform, Android platform, right? So all of these guys, they just they go through our service layer. We will never expose the data layer to anyone outside. Only service layer talk to talk to the database, should talk to the data layer, not the database. The only our data layer components can talk to database. We will never talk to database directly, right? Even if UPS, if they want to talk to, they want to tell us that, hey, for the order that you just placed, I already shipped. So who knows that order has been shipped? UPS knows that, and UPS, but customer doesn't go to UPS. Customer comes to our website. We need to know that. We need to know that shipment has already been started. How do we know that? That UPS guy will talk to our service layer, and service layer knows where to update, what are all the business rules it need to apply, everything, and then service layer will call the DAOs to update it. So the 1 minute story is that whatever we just did it so far, like your servlet talks to DAO will not happen anymore. Your servlet must not talk to DAOs for very good reason. This is called scalability. Your application needs to be scalable. Meaning, today you may be thinking that you're only supporting just people who are using laptops and desktops are fine. Mine is a small business. No. Once that business grows, that's when things get complicated. That's when you will have to reinvent the whole architecture. So you better do the right way today, so that your application is scalable. If at all you grow into from 10 customers a day to 10 million customers a day, your application will sustain. And from just the laptop browsers all the way to the mobile apps to smartphones and everything, right? So you have to have a solid service layer in between the web layer and DAO or data layer. And now it is the from your Java Enterprise Edition architecture standpoint of view. Now the architecture is complete after close to 3 months of training. Now the architecture is complete. Now the picture is complete. All these while we have been building these small pieces. Now we put together to build the perfect house. So what I'm saying is that oops, background layer, I don't want to write it on the background layer. That's the problem. Okay, 1 second. I need one more. Okay, this is good. Let me add one more layer. Okay. Let's redraw the picture. We have the browser, right? I don't need to talk, I don't need to show all of your server and what happens on the server side, but I'll just say that your web layer goes through service layer, goes through data layer, and then database. This is the picture. And now this is the complete picture. And now obviously we don't care about this is the client request coming from the browser in any of the web apps. Now this is all we're concerned about. This is all the Java application. This is all your server side. This is what your WAR file contains. And now this is your database, which sits outside, right? So all the technologies that we learned can be mapped to one of these layers. I think I mentioned it in my previous class also that your JDBC goes here, right? Later we'll learn about Hibernate. There's one more API called JPA, Java Persistence API. All of these technologies go into data layer. Now here we have your servlets, JSP, right? You have your struts, and then there's one more MVC framework that we will definitely talk about. It is Spring MVC. So for service layer, this is where we write the core business logic, core Java code. And then also we would need some infrastructure related services, meaning you need some transaction management, you need some security, you need good scalable application. All of this is what we need. And now, as part of your Java Enterprise Edition, by the way, it used to be called Java 2 Enterprise Edition, right? Now it's called JEE, Java Enterprise Edition. That's it. We have taken out 2. So all of your servlets, JSP, these are not part of JEE, but servlets, JSP, JMS, JDBC, these are all, in fact, JPA is also part of your JEE, Java Enterprise Edition. All of these technologies are part of that big umbrella. JEE is a big umbrella under which you have a lot of the sub APIs or sub specs. Okay? So, this is again goes back to late 90s, about 99 time frame, 99 2000, 99 mainly, 99 98 time frame, to help us with automatic transactions, or they call it declarative transactions, meaning without writing the code, how can I get the transactions? Without writing the code, how can I get the security? Without writing the code, how can I get my scalability? All of these things were achieved through a technology called EJB, Enterprise Java Beans. So we know what a Java Bean is. Java Bean is a simple Java class that has getters and setters according to the Java Bean specification, like get customer name, like that, right? And then set customer name. So we know getters and setters. So that's a regular Java Bean. It's a regular Java Bean, right? So they added some enterprise level features to it. They said that, hey, transaction will be taken care by these special Java Beans. Security will be taken care by these special Java Beans. And your application is automatically scalable without you writing the code. with these special beans, if you use these special beans, it's all marketing term. Okay. So that's called enterprise Java bean. And then they introduce this highly complicated technology, probably the most complicated that I've seen. I mean, that that we have all seen in JEE or Java 2 Enterprise Edition stack. It's a heavily complicated stuff for developers to write EJB and to deploy them. So to deploy these specialized Java beans called enterprise Java beans, your servlet container is not sufficient anymore. Back then, we only had servlet containers to start with, like Tomcat. So Tomcat is not sufficient to be able to deploy your special EJBs or special JBs. Okay? That's why they introduced something called EJB container or application server. They introduced something called EJB container, also called application server, meaning it does much more than what a servlet container does. Application server. Okay? So it does much more than what your servlet container does. Servlet container just implements your servlet API, and it provides lifecycle for your servlet and JSPs. It provides an environment for your servlet and JSPs. But EJB container provides much more than that. It provides runtime environment for your EJBs. Okay? And out of all of this EJB spec, back then, Sun Microsystem, actually, those are the people who invented Java, right? So again, they came up with this EJB spec also back then at late 90s. So unfortunately, those guys didn't make much money, but these other big fat vendors like IBM and back then there is a company called BEA, and then IBM. These two are the big vendors back then. So they came up with these EJB containers. BEA company came up with this big fat EJB container called WebLogic. It's okay. It's a thick-skinned application server called WebLogic. But IBM, it's a very, very fat application server called WebSphere. These two have been the most prominent EJB containers or application servers in the world, WebLogic and WebSphere. Okay, I think maybe now WebSphere is number one. And now, eventually, this BEA company has been bought by Oracle. So now it became Oracle WebLogic. And later, Oracle has bought Sun Microsystem also. So all the Java umbrella is now under Oracle. Okay? But still, WebSphere is the number one, the most popular application server or EJB container. Okay? So that's about EJB and EJB container and a little bit of history there. But they made it so complicated that developers hated it. Okay? It does all of these things that I told you. Like it does automatic transactions, it does automatic security, it does scale your application without you having to write a line of code. It does all of that, but it's pretty complicated to develop it. Okay, couple of interfaces. One is called home interface, the other one is called remote interface, and there is another actual class. There is another EJB GRXML. It's like pretty complicated stuff. Okay. Remoting as well. There is a concept called remoting. I think I'll not talk about it right now. You can, in one sentence, I'll try to say this. Your EJB can be called from other clients from clients outside of your JVM. A simple Java client in one JVM can talk to a EJB that's deployed in another JVM. So that's called remoting. So all of these fancy features were introduced. So it was so complicated. And later, this is about 2004, 2005-ish, I think. Not 5, I think probably about 3 and 4-ish. So there were a lot of patterns emerged to decrease the complexity of EJB architecture. EJB architecture was so complex that there were a lot of patterns emerged. Hey, if you think this is complicated, okay, use this pattern. So rather than reducing the complexity of the original architecture itself, there were a lot of patterns emerged as band-aids for the actual problem. Okay, so one guy, his name is Rod Johnson. So he wrote a book, Expert One-on-One JTE Development or something like that. Okay, he wrote a book back then about again 2003's time frame, and he was talking about, he was trashing the whole EJB architecture, and then hey, you can reduce all of this complexity, and he just introduced some piece of code there in that book that became the most popular framework in Java and J2E space now. That is called Spring Framework. I just introduced all of that to give you some background to it without getting into any of the details. An alternative solution to EJBs using some simple XML mapping. And again, his point is that you guys made these Java beans are so easy. Okay, the original Java beans, by adding E here, you made extremely complicated. You don't need to do that. These Java beans are good enough. In fact, I think himself or later Hibernate people, they call these Java beans POJO, plain old Java objects. You know what? By introducing E there, when you talk about EJB, then everybody was like getting shivers, like EJB, my God, that's way too complicated. Okay? Later, that whole architecture has been revisited, and then they simplified it quite a bit, but by then it was too late because Spring came into picture by then. So anyways, so Rod Johnson's point is that, hey, plain old Java beans, they're good enough. Okay? All you need is, so this is what you need to do it. So he proposed a solution that is called, he actually called that solution as inversion of control. I'll talk about it. That probably today, good couple of hours, that's what main topic is. I'm just telling you the story. So he called it inversion of control. Later, there is another guy in software space, highly respected guy. His name is, I think you might have heard his name from me a lot of times. His name is Martin Fowler. He wrote a couple of the most popular books. So he revisited that name and he recoined this term called dependency injection. I'll talk about what dependency injection is. Okay? So Spring became popular with this simple concept called dependency injection. In fact, that is what Spring was born to do. Okay, but later they came up with this bold statement that we make the Java development easier. So whatever you do it, Okay, Spring helps you make it better. So Spring started going into every single sector of Java J2EE industry, and then they started producing the plugins for all of this to make the Java development easier. So finally, I think to an extent they proved themselves. They made the Java development lot more easier now. And the Spring has plugins in almost in every single area now. Spring is everywhere. Okay. It started, all of the whole Spring framework's life started with simple concept called dependency injection, and later it has a lot of modules. But the beauty of Spring framework is that you don't have to use everything there. You choose based on your context, based on your needs, you choose what you need, and then you just use that one. Okay? And still, a lot of people use just a Spring framework for dependency injection, and that they just use just DI. That's perfectly fine. Now we'll get into the actual story of dependency injection. But before that, let me take a couple of questions on the history and story. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yep.
That is, just to recap what we already did in the JSP, not JSP, I mean to say in MVC. See, we had customer DAO and then after that we did the list customers, for instance, get DAO, DAO.get customers. That was the call to the DAO, right? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Customer servlet calls to the customer DAO. Yes.
Yeah, list customer servlet calls to that's the DAO call.
That's right.
And then after that, we were dispatching to the JSP. That's a different thing. That's just for the presentation. So that's what we had. So what you're going to introduce, so that's what we would understand as the business logic that we had seen so far, right? Okay, so that's...
Forwarding to the JSP is not a business logic.
It's just a presentation.
Exactly.
But just the call to the customer, it was very rudimentary business logic, just the call to the get all customer.
Exactly.
So that was the DAO call, and business logic was over there only.
Right.
Maybe do a little bit of pull it over there, do a little bit of a manipulation with logic, if then else, while loops, all those things. So you're going to introduce the service layer over there to do that kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure in terms of...
To reiterate that one, no, what you summarized is 100% correct. Let me put it that way. Okay? Now, nothing to add, except that, just to put it differently, your servlet will not be able to call the DAO directly. Your servlet goes to customer service and asks the service layer, hey, can you give me the customers? Okay? And then that service layer goes to DAO to get all the customers. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I mean, just making sure that I understand it right.
Yep.
That's why. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before that, before service layer, we made everything without service layer, and it is working perfectly. Then why we will put the extra layer?
For the reasons that I mentioned here, it's because it works fine in your maybe okay. So you have this is your browser. Browser comes to your web layer, right? Right? And now, what did I say earlier? Your mobile app, your mobile goes to, they have their own platform, right? Mobile platform, right? So now, if you put your business logic here, you end up putting the business logic here. Now, this is your data layer. If you think everyone is utilizing this one, right? So you end up putting your data logic here, you end up putting your business logic here in both the cases. And this is from the browser, mobile app, and I was saying not your customers. Let's say you are doing B2B, like your UPS, right? This is UPS. Now, UPS will end up going to your data layer. And where do you put this business logic? So your business logic is duplicated in all of these places. You do not want to. You want to expose one single layer for all of these people, irrespective of the request coming from the browser, irrespective of the request coming from the mobile application, irrespective of the request coming from another application entirely different. They are called web services. We'll talk about that later. But all of these people here, they go through one layer here. We don't want to introduce. All of them go now with the new architecture. All of them go. This guy goes here, this guy goes here, this guy goes here, and only this guy goes to data layer and gets the data from database. So once it gets the data here, it will apply the business rules that are common across all of them. Business rules are 9 out of 10 times. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from a browser or you are coming from a mobile app, right? So this is where you will apply all the business rules here. Does it make sense?
Yes.
And then also, I wanted to say this. Let's say your customer, there's one more reason also. Let's say you have your customer DAO, right? Okay. Now, you have various modules here. You have your shopping cart. Your shopping cart is interested in your customer details. And then your security people are interested in your customer details. And then your CRM folks, let's say, customer relationship management, they are interested in your customer information, right? All of these people now, if they call the DAO and put their own business logic, even within the application, Madhavi, so it's not only for scaling up to the next level. I'm saying in a reasonably medium-sized applications too, the service layer makes a lot of sense. For the simple fact being that all of these guys, they go to database because you don't want to put any business logic here. Right? So you end up putting here, you end up putting here, you end up putting here. You have a lot of duplication. Rather, you put it here. And then now shopping cart, you are shielding all of your DAOs now. You're saying that, hey, if somebody needs some customer information, you go to this guy. You go to the single person. Anybody needs any customer information, go there. And this guy will call the DAO. The main reason being that is 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times, you may not go to one single source to get your customers. You will get, let's say, some of your internal customers are stored here, but your external customers are stored in a different database. Okay? What you do is you make one more call, go get these customers. You make the first call, get these customers. You make the second call, get these customers, aggregate the data and put some business logics, whatever they are, and then you give a unified view. All of these people, they don't know. They say that, hey, somehow this guy knows magically. He gets all of the customer information. We don't care. Get it?
Yes.
But Venkat,
Yeah.
will it be possible to see these applications like shopping cart, server info, what's that? I don't know. CRM, all these things are growing, security or whatever that is, second one. They are really growing over time. So is it possible to even preempt the kind of business logic that you would need as a common thing for all of them and put it in the center, in the service layer right in the beginning or something?
Absolutely. That's the right thing to do. That is what I'm saying. So even if you have a single client today, create a separate service layer. Okay? So you're making your application extensible. So when other modules come into picture, they will just use it. And especially this service layer is what exposed not only to your application, mainly external applications. I'm not talking about human sitting in front of computer, okay, buying something in the browser. I'm not talking about it. I am talking about the real application. Application to application interaction actually happens here. That is called web service. The service layer will be exposed as is to other applications, B2B applications. Perfectly, I was saying UPS. UPS is a perfect one, right? In this case, human is not sitting here. A separate application will be calling it. That is called web service. So your service layer will be exposed as is as a web service. We didn't talk about web services, but I'm saying that is why.
So any interaction with the third party vendor, that logic goes into the service layer, whatever the information that we are sharing or getting from them.
And by having solid service layer for both internal and external, it makes your application more extensible, more maintainable. You are not duplicating. You don't want to duplicate. You're violating dry principle, right? Do not repeat yourself, right? So create a solid service layer which is going to grow over the period, right? Today you get the feeling that, hey, I'll just have one servlet. Why not just put it there? So your application will be very fragile in that case. So when a new guy comes in, again, you'll make the choice at that time. So what do? I have to extract and put it in a service layer, which you don't want to do it. I mean, a lot of people get scared to do it because, oh, I'm touching this piece now. I don't know what happens. Again, we have the regression, all of that. That is why. Do it early on. Even if you think it's, agree. One of the cons, I told you about all the pros here, but one of the disadvantages is that one extra layer. Every time you add an extra layer, obviously one more layer of failure. So there is one more layer of failure point. Obviously, latency, your time, because if your servlet makes a direct call, it can be faster. But now you're going through one more layer. So obviously, but 95% of the times it makes sense to have a service layer. Okay, especially for medium to enterprise level applications, big applications, medium to big, large, definitely makes sense. That is why you will see this very standard web layer, service layer, and data layer, and to the database. Okay. So in fact, rather than taking some, I typically start the dependency injection of Spring by taking some simple examples and later build it. But since I already talked about the service layer, So what we'll do is probably we will introduce the service layer. What happens? How does our eShop application look with this service layer? So let's revisit that one and let's improve upon, and then come back, introduce Spring and do it little more nicer way. Make sense? So are we on eShop 2 now? This is your, right? Currently we are in eShop 2, Mavenized version there. But now I will use the same Mavenized version to introduce the service layer as well. So you have your web layer. Did I make any changes here? So we have your web layer, we have our data layer. Now let's say service layer. You will typically see this kind of package structure also. .web, .service, .domain. You will typically see that. Or .web, .service, .dao. Com, eShop, service.
Venkat?
Yes.
Yeah. The .domain is just listing the classes of the business domain. Is that what it means, or something different?
Domain is actually, I don't want to get into that discussion.
Okay.
It's more domain actually falls somewhere in the service layer, but people loosely call them in the data layer. It's like in Hibernate they call it domain entities. That is where it all came from. So I'll talk about it when I talk about Hibernate. Okay.
All right.
Venkat, one logistical question. See this eShop 2 application?
Uh-huh.
This is in your area, right?
If it's in my area, it should be in your area too, right?
Okay. So actually, I checked it out just now.
Okay.
Before you make any changes.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
So why not call it eShop 3 then? So that when we check out, when we update, it will not override our present status.
I mean, I can. You guys want me to call that?
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think that'll be better, safer.
Okay.
It'll be a little bit of waste of your space.
No problem. How do I best?
You know, one thing when I pulled out MVC 1_ 2015, it wrote as JSP EL Feb 2015 in my.
Talk about that later.
Later, okay.
So, I'm just thinking of as easy refactoring and let's go to. Let's see if this works. So let's call it the whole thing as eShop 3, and then what I'll do here is that import file, import existing projects into workspace, and then here you can specify where your project is. D Java training projects eShop 3. Looks like that worked.
Okay.
This seems to be no problem. I think that makes a lot of sense, Sean. Thank you. But we'll put some readme.txt there saying that, hey, eShop 2 is same as eShop except we introduced Maven, and eShop 3 we should say that it's we introduced a service layer. Probably we'll put this. We'll see. We can use the same thing for Spring also. So let me deploy this guy. Does it say in the brackets eShop2? Somewhere it still has, okay, let's change this guy to eShop3. I know a lot of references need to be changed actually. Yeah, it's actually referencing eShop. Oh, let's see. Your palm eShop. eShop3. Why does it still have, oops, sorry. Okay. Source main web app, web of JSP, home.jsp slash. We will change. Let's not use this context name anymore. There is a smarter way of doing it. I hate doing this one. Don't use the simple anchor tags. There is a JSTL version of it. Use that one. Then you don't have to change this context name. When you move from eShop2 to eShop3, you don't have to change anything because context, you don't give it anymore. It's actually implicit. It's already given. Okay. So let's look at it and see if it still works. Very good. eShop3, good. You want to shop more? Yeah. Sure. Okay, it's all good. Looks like all good. Now that's about eShop3. And now what do we want to do? We want to introduce the service layer, right? Yes. So at this point, we have these many DAOs. So let's say, what do we call the first one? Customer service, I'm assuming, right? So the first one is customer service. And
it's interface? No.
yes, I wanted to come to that. I wanted to come to that in a minute. Which one will be easy? For Spring, we need interface implementations. Should I do it in two parts or one part is what I'm thinking. That's all. There's nothing much. Okay, first let's identify how many do we need. One is customer service. What is the other one? We need orders, right? So we need order service.
And for products.
I agree. The other one is products.
So the CRUD logic that you mentioned last time, those kinds of things will come here, right?
Yes.
May not be. Okay.
Not one-to-one though, because you want to think, you do not want to think like the relational world anymore. You don't want to bring your database concepts here. Okay. So you don't want to bring your database concepts to your data layer itself. In the data layer itself, you want to think in terms of, hey, what kind of public API do I want to expose, right? but especially in your service layer, that thinking has to be more. Meaning, think in terms of services. So just because my orders and order details are two different DAOs, you don't want to expose one. So you don't want to expose two different services for that. They all fall under one category, which is creating an order. Creating an order has two steps, which is the first step is creating an order in order table and creating all the entries in order details table. So it's one logical step. This is very, very, very important in designing the service layer. Are you guys getting it? Or you want me to repeat it? So
Can
what
you
I'm,
repeat it?
Yeah, would you please repeat one?
Absolutely. It's a very important concept, especially when you design it, right? What I'm saying is that this is not one-to-one mapping with your DAO. You need to think more in terms of services, reusable services. So 99% of the times, this is what happens, or maybe 95% of the times. Your web layer calls the service layer, right? And service layer internally calls DAO1, DAO2, DAO3, okay? And it may call other web services, okay? Get all the data coming from all of these data stores, apply the logic, apply the core business functionality, apply the filtering, apply everything, apply your security context, everything you put together here, and then you provide a unified view. So you don't want to create multiple service layers in this case. It's actually one business functionality. You have to think now at the service layer in terms of business functionality, taking out your developer hat, think in terms of business functionality. Creating an order, let's say placing an order, place order. Place order is a perfect method in your order service. I will give you a customer ID. Think about how you do not think about how you designed your DAOs. Just erase it. Now, let's all think about how our order service should be. So, in your order service, tell me, what do you want to do? One, place an order, right? I will give you the customer and I'll give you the whole order details and you place the order. Internally, you may be calling 3 different DAOs to place an order. That's your internal, you do not tell me. But as a client of the service layer, you expose very, very, very seamless API. You expose a high-level API. In fact, there is a pattern. There is a design pattern also for that. It's called session facade. I'll not talk about it right now, but I'm saying is that you think as high level as possible. So you're placing an order and think in terms of business functionality also. Place order is one of the functions. What is the other one? Give me the orders, right? Get orders for a customer.
Select.
I will give you a customer ID. Give me all the orders, right? Get orders for a customer, or get orders and give me the give me the customer ID. I'll give you the orders that are placed by this customer. And here, maybe you may want to take the date range between what? You know, get orders in this month, get orders for the last 6 months. You know what I'm saying? You may want to expose that kind of a reusable methods. So if you go to Amazon or somewhere, they'll say that there will be a link, right? I want to see all the orders that are placed in the last 6 months. These DAOs could be generic that take 2 different dates, but your service layer can be very, very business oriented, and you can say that give me the orders for the last 6 months. Okay. So that's how you need to think. Place order, get orders. What else? What else?
Update
Update an order.
modify orders, some property and some attribute, yeah, of an order.
Tell me in business functionality how it don't tell me that there is a database table and it could be changed. Tell me the business functionality. Let's think in that way. I'm just challenging you guys to think in that. That's all. Maybe there is an update order, definitely. Add another product. Good. Could be. So at this point, public void place order, huh? Right? And then give me the customer ID. Yeah, cancel the order. Cancel the order is perfect business functionality, right? Review the order. Okay. Sure. Actually, reviewing the order before placing the order, is that what you're saying, Monica? Since it is not,
find by primary key.
But since it is not placed yet, we wouldn't even come here. That's all in the web layer itself handles through session tracking.
Actually, review the order could be like find by primary key if the order exists.
Yeah, if the order exists. Yes, I agree. So this is your place order. Okay. Order service, place order, and give me the orders, right? Get all orders. Give me the list of orders. You want to design your service layer by not looking at your DAOs. I highly recommend all of you to do that. Okay? Do not think about, hey, what did I call in DAOs? Because we tend to take those names, but think in terms of business functionality. Something that we have not done that I liked here is that cancel order. That happens in real world a lot, right? Get orders. Right? Get orders. You can say get orders. How do we, shall we say in our application, in our eShop application, because I want to put some business logic there. So shall I say get orders for this month? Right? Shall I? Get orders for the month.
Yeah.
Get
one for this month and one for open.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Meaning everything, huh? Whether this is where you want to think about it, whether you want to give all the orders, because if you give all the orders, maybe you are maybe that may not be a perfect use case, because if you're giving like thousands of the orders back to the browser, can he ever read all of them? Again,
no, I was thinking from this point of view.
That's just a food for thought. But, I agree with you on the smaller scale, but I'm just asking you to think, you guys. That's all. Get orders for the month. Okay? Yeah. So something like that, right? And I think that's good enough. Right? Now, this is where we need to do orders DAO equal to new order DAO JDB simple, right? What do we do? DAO dot create order. Sure. Here it can be create order makes sense because in the data layer you speak to an extent, you are closer to the database, so you tend to think in terms of database, kind of. There also you need to separate your relational thinking to the object thinking, but your service layer, you're far away from database and you want to think only in the business functionalities. Okay? like a canceling an order, may be deleting from the database. So your DAO knows that it's a deleting an entry. I think this is a perfect example. So canceling an order, somebody wants to cancel an order. From our business functionality perspective, it's a canceling an order. But when it comes to the database, maybe it's deleting an order. Not maybe. Let's say in our case, it's a deleting an order. So DAO dot delete order, perfect sense. But when it comes to service layer, we'll say that cancel order, perfect sense, right? Because in addition to deleting it, maybe we'll send out an email. That sending out an email will be done in the service layer. Are you getting it now? Your DAO will only interact with the database. Then who will send an email to your customer saying that your order has been canceled? That is the functionality of service. That is something that you don't want to put in your web layer because you don't want to duplicate in all of for all the other clients, like your mobile application, like your web service. Later on, when you speak to someone else, this is very important concept. I want to make sure. I know I did not introduce Spring yet, but are you guys getting it completely? Yeah. If you understand this one, you can look at your whole bigger picture of JTE application in a different angle. So I'm speaking the whole design of it, actually, not just coding. Okay. So get orders, right? Now we'll say DAO dot get orders for customer. Sure. And we'll have to return it.
So a method needs to be written. New method, right?
Venkat?
Yeah.
Can we initialize the DAO or the DAO like before all the methods, and then we can use it rather than initializing it?
You're fantastic. I was waiting to hear that from one of you guys. Line of code, and one more line of code. So we are already violated the dry principle there, right? So how do we solve it? How do we solve it?
Put it as null in the beginning, in the top.
Okay. And
then over here, use the DAO only.
That's one way to think, sure. Let's think our business logic here for a second. We'll get to that, okay? We'll get into the refactoring in a minute.
Okay.
Here, orders DAO equal new orders DAO JDB simple. We got all the orders. Actually, these two lines of code is nothing but this one, right? You can simply refactor it and say use this internal method. Now you got the list of orders. Now you tell me we're asking for this month, right? Let's say for some reason database, we don't want to use the database functionality. Actually, in this case, it makes sense to use the database functionality itself because we are not loading all the orders from the database. It doesn't make sense to take everything from the database and filter it. From the database itself, you can say, hey, can you give me for this month? You can say that. Let's say for some reason our database has restricted because we want to put some business logic here, right? So we need to write the logic. So we'll say new array list, right? We'll go through orders for the month. Orders of the month. Orders for the month. I'm easy. Okay, now for each order here in your orders, if Can you one of you tell me? Order dot get order date.
Get all. Okay.
No, order dot get order date, right? We want to check. So get day. This is your month, right? So your get month, deprecated as of JDK, replaced by calendar dot get, returns a number representing the month that contains 0 to 11. I know. Let's say we use it for now. Okay. Int current month equal to, you know how to get the current month? New date dot get month. Right. And then if order dot get order date dot month is equal to current month, then we will add. Right. I know it's deprecated. We shouldn't be using it, but that's okay for now. That's not the point, right? We want talking about the bigger points. Hard disk for the month, and now I'm returning it. So this is what I mean by the business logic here. Okay. And now another business logic, as I said, the canceling the order. When you say the cancel order, you delete the order from the database and also shoot an email to customers saying that shooting an email will happen here at the service layer. Anyways. This is good. And then customer service. What do we want to do customer service? Give me all the customers. Public.
Venkat, okay.
Go ahead.
So what you're doing is instead of really writing another where clause in the DAO, you are really doing it through here.
Right. That's why I was saying that, right? It doesn't make sense to do it this way. In real world, it does not make sense to do it this way because there is no reason to get it from the database and filter it here. We can filter in the database itself. But I wanted to show you some business logic.
Okay.
That is why I put it here.
But everything will be like this only, right? I mean, it'll be some kind of, if you try to do it here, it'll be some filtration of data already.
Business logic is just the filtration?
Most of the time.
Nope. Calculation of your mortgage insurance, where does it happen?
Those things, yeah. That too, much of the things can be done. See, we write a lot of SQLs, right? We do a lot of querying and calculation, summing up, aggregation, group by, and then also analytic functions. We do them at the database level.
We talked about why we should not do any of the business logic in the database already, right? That's not scalable.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever you do it in Java is horizontally scalable. In database, I think I'll not get into that discussion now.
Okay, that part is fine. I remember that.
Okay. Yeah. So add a customer. We can do all of this all day long, right? So let me not do it for now because we are not adding a customer at this point, right? Are we adding a customer? We have this DA or demo class. I'll delete that guy. It doesn't have anything. Okay, now let's go through our servlet. Shopping cart servlet. We are saying get all the products. So we don't want to keep any of these DAOs into here. We want to move them to the appropriate service layer, right? So product service. So we'll say. So what is the shopping cart servlet here? Find by primary key. Okay. So we'll say public product get by ID. Let's say get by ID, right? Right? Int product ID. Now we'll say, we'll copy paste the same thing here. Products DAO equal to this guy, and then essentially these 2 lines of code. You can just inline this guy and say, just return it, right? And now what you're going to do here is that you're going to replace these 2 lines of code with 1 line, product service equal to new product service, and then service dot get by ID, and this is your product ID, and then this is your product. Are you guys getting it? Anybody has any questions at this point? And how we replaced our DAO layer with the service layer in your servlets. So servlet will go through the service layer to get it. Okay. In fact, you can inline this one. You can do it in a single line, right? Product equal to new product service dot get by ID, right? So did you understand now how seamless it is? But you do not appreciate much. You'll not be able to appreciate much the service layer, especially in our class. The reason being is it's just a couple of lines of code. It's just another pass through. But once we introduce a lot of business logic there, that's when it makes sense for the service layer. Okay, so that's all. Your application should work as is. I mean, I didn't change all of them.
Venkat, one question. I don't know whether it's in the scope of this discussion. See, the selection that you are making from the database, is it possible to make it persist somehow?
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
See all these selections that it is making, all these get all and all those things, get all customers or get all orders, all those things. Is it possible to really hold it up somewhere? The extract from the database? Though, see, you are basically loading them up into array list.
Right.
To persist the array list, because next time another call is made, it'll go. Of course, by that time the data will have changed also. But anyway, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. Forget about it. Silly question.
No problem. Okay. So, any other questions? No? Understand the service layer? Now we can change. Now I'll introduce Spring, and then we'll talk about dependency injection. Yeah? Okay, welcome back. So now let's talk about the dependency injection. What is dependency injection? Or it used to be called IOC, inversion of control as well, but now it's called dependency injection. Mostly they both mean the same. So now, first of all, let's talk about the dependencies, right? Forget about injection. Let's understand, let's make sure we are all on the same page from dependencies perspective. So your web layer, can I say your web layer depends on your service layer? And your service layer depends on your data layer? Is it fair to say that web layer gets the data from your service layer. So web layer depends on your service layer, and service layer gets the data from data layer. So service layer depends on data layer. So if your servlet needs the service, how does it get the dependency? In today's world, so far, if your servlet needs some information from your service, what does it do? How does it get the dependency? How does it ask the dependency? It will say that customer service, right? Customer service equal to new customer service, right? And then now I got my dependency. Now I got the component that I need to talk to. I got the instance of the component that I need to talk to. Who got it? The web layer. Now web layer got the component of service layer to talk to. Now you just ask it. Just say service dot get all customers. Service dot get all customers. Now you're asking service layer. Now you're asking this component that you got it. Hey, can you give me all the customers? Absolutely. And now your service layer is doing the same thing. Your service layer depends on the data layer, and it says that customer DAO equal to new customer DAO. And then it asks now the component, hey DAO, can you give me the customer with this ID? Right? Web layer has a dependency on service. So web layer depends on service layer, and your service depends on your DAO, customer DAO. And we get it by instantiating, we get these components by instantiating that particular class. There is a problem with this one. Every time you do new in your code, there is a problem. You know what is the problem? Web layer has instantiated the service class, your servlet class has instantiated the customer service, got it, and then called the get all customers. By instantiating it, I'm getting my own dependency. So my servlet got its own dependency by instantiating it. So what it means is that tomorrow, if I want to depend on someone else, hey, I don't like this customer service. We have the interface and implementation concept, right? So what is the interface implementation concept? It's all about polymorphism. How can I change my implementation? So I can always code to interface. I should say that your customer service, which is your interface, and I should be able to give appropriate implementation. I should be able to change the implementation. What did we do in your service class? Tell me. We did that customer DAO equal new customer DAO JDBC impl. That was the only implementation that we have for DAO. But you can have several implementations. One for Hibernate, one for JDBC, one for JPA. You can have. And now I want to decide, I don't want to get my dependency. Rather, I want to say that, hey, I depend on this guy. I depend on customer service interface. Can you provide me the appropriate implementation? So no component will not get its dependencies. Rather, this component, this web layer piece will say that I depend on customer service. Okay, somebody will magically provide the implementation. So the dependencies will not be retrieved by the actual component itself. Rather, dependencies will be injected into it magically without the actual component having to do anything. So servlet will not have to go get its component, get its dependency by saying customer service equal to new customer service simple. Rather, servlet will somehow say that, hey, I depend on customer service. I depend on customer service, and customer service will magically be injected. Similarly, your service layer depends on DAO. No, your service will not get this one anymore. Customer DAO equal new customer DAO JDB simple. It doesn't do it. It just says that I depend on customer DAO interface. Can you provide me the dependency? So the right side, I will never write it. What's the problem with right side? What's the problem with the new here? The problem with the new is that if you put the code, your code is too tightly coupled with the implementation. Your code is too tightly coupled with the implementation. Let's say you have two different implementations of the same interface. You want to change from one implementation to another implementation. Where do you have to do that? In the actual code itself, you have to do it. So these components are too tightly coupled. We want them to be as loosely coupled as possible. As loosely coupled as possible. From day one of our class, I've been chanting this one, right? I've been saying this one, code to interface, code to interface. The left side is always your interface, and your right side, of course, it has to be implementation. But you do not get your implementations anymore. What Spring does is, Spring will inject the dependencies. You just say that you depend on this customer service interface, and the right hand side, the instantiation part, you will never do it. It will be done by Spring Framework, and it will provide it to you. That's the beauty of it. And the beauty is that, the reason it is powerful is, let's say your component A depends on component B, right? Your component B depends on component C depends on component D, component D depends on E. Nobody gets the dependencies. D just says that somehow we will get into the details in few minutes. Okay, D will somehow says that, hey, I depend on interface E. I don't know whichever the implementation. Okay, you magically provide it to me. I depend on E. C says that I depend on D interface. B says that I depend on C interface. A says that I depend on B. Now, if somebody is asking Spring Framework, hey Spring, can you give me the A object for me? You know what it does? Because you are not managing the life cycle, you are not going to instantiate any more classes anymore. With Spring Framework, you don't have to get your dependencies. You don't have to get your dependencies. So when you ask for A, you know what it does? Spring realizes that, hey, A depends on B. Okay, let me go instantiate B and provide it back to A. And then it realizes that, oh, B depends on C. Okay, then I can't even instantiate B yet. Let me instantiate C and provide it to B. And then I realize, oh, C depends on D. Then let me instantiate D first and then give it to C. Oh, I realized that D depends on E. Hey, E, do you have any dependencies? No, you don't have any dependencies. Okay, you are the last guy in the chain. Okay, let me instantiate you first, and then I will inject you to D. And now let me instantiate D now. Okay, and then I will provide D to C. Let me instantiate C. Now I'll give it to B. And then I'm instantiating B and give it to A. And now I'm giving the fully loaded A to you. When A is given to you, all the dependencies have been wired. They call it wiring. It's perfect wiring, right? So all the dependencies will be wired, and you never have to say in your code that I'm getting my dependencies. I'll just say that customer DAO equal new customer DAO JDB simple. You never have to do the right side thing anymore for any of the dependency. Spring will magically provide it to you. How does it? It's not a magic really. You somehow have to say which implementation has to be provided. That is not in the Java code, that is configured separately in an XML file. Or in the newer version of Spring, newer meaning it's there for the last good 5-6 years. Better yet, either do it, XML is okay to start with, but the better solution will be to use annotations. And Spring will automatically provide the dependencies. You never have to get it. And what you get it? So what's the advantage of the dependency injection? So the dependencies will be injected by Spring Framework, and no component will get its own dependencies is the point we are making. But what's the benefit? The benefit is the loose coupling. Highly cohesive system is what you will get it. Loose coupling. And what does it buy you? Loose coupling. Well, better maintenance. And not only that, better testing. Better testing. It makes your testing much more easier. The individual pieces. You can test A now because your A, all you are saying is your A depends on B. In your code, you are not getting new anymore. So you're only coding to interface. You will never have to mention your implementation in your Java code anymore. That's all configured somewhere. Spring will do the magic. So by not getting, I can test this completely in isolation. There is a concept called mocking. You can use them to better test it. So all the binding happens either in XML. In a traditional Spring world, everything was XML. This is what he proposed in his book, Rod Johnson. This is all about Spring Framework. Hey, nobody gets the dependencies on their own. Nobody uses this new keyword anymore in their for the dependency side. Okay, if you depend on something, you don't have to get your dependencies. Rather, I will inject to you. You just say that you depend on this one. I will inject it for you. Okay, so that's all. It all started with a simple concept called dependency injection, but later it solved a lot of problems. We'll talk about it. And then it went into every single layer. Probably it made your life easy in every single angle across the board. So Spring went into the data layer and took care of some problems, a lot of problems with JDBC with nicer concept. And then again, it went into the web layer, and then it introduced another MVC layer, another MVC framework called Spring MVC, which is very, very popular. So it went into every single layer, every single system, and then made your Java development easier. But it all started with a very simple concept called dependency injection. Okay? Any questions? I can show you with a very simple example to start with, and then I'll come and we can wire these guys up. We can wire the services and DAOs. We'll wire them up. But before that, I can show you a simpler example. Any questions? Anyone? Yeah, let me. I agree. It's a little bit dry at this point. I'm with you on that. Okay. Let me create a simple Maven project. Quick start archetype is good for me. I'll say Spring. Whatever, I'll just not care about it for now. Let's see, and then in POM XML. So
I can't see well. It's Spring, right? Just the name of the project?
Yeah. Okay. So what we need is we need the dependency of the Spring context. Okay. Let's get the.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
This one, Maven dependencies, how it came? Means I can't understand this one because I did the Maven project, but in my project there is no Maven dependencies.
Okay. Don't think I got the question though. So we need to depend on Spring. We need the Spring library for this one, right? Everybody, right? So we need Spring framework library. We need a Spring library called Spring context. Okay. So Maven search.maven.org. This is a centralized Maven repository. Okay. Here, let's say Spring. Okay. So you have Spring context, and let's go. So I'll use this 3.2. The latest one is 4 plus, but we don't use any of the core features are exactly the same. So here, as soon as I put it here, Madhavi, dependency, right? As soon as I put it here, so it's going to grab the Spring dependencies now. Look at it. So it gathered the Spring context, Spring context internally depends on Spring Core and Spring AOP and AOP Alliance, Spring Beans, all of this. So I'm getting all of this one. So what is your question? Hello? Madhavi, do you have a question or?
Yeah, I got it now because I saw in my Maven project there is a Maven dependency and everything is there.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
am
You need this one. Okay. And then JUnit, it automatically brings it. In fact, I don't need, especially 3.8. This is a very old version. We don't want to use that. So we can, anyway, we can, yeah, take this guy out. So let me show you. This is my example. I think last time also I've taken the same example. Let me take, before I talk about service layer, DAO and all that stuff, let me take this example. So we have one interface called vehicle. See our class actually months back, this is what it started with, right? Vehicle. Vehicle is an interface. Here we have car, we have bus, we have truck. Okay, we have different implementations of vehicle. Now we have this guy person. I mean, somebody wants to travel it, a traveler. So there is a class called traveler. So traveler wants to travel. Okay, traveler wants to travel on a vehicle. Understand that statement. Traveler wants to travel on a vehicle. So traveler has a dependency on vehicle. So traveler needs to travel. So we have a method called travel. And traveler depends on vehicle. Are we on the same page now? Traveler depends on vehicle. So how does traditionally traveler gets his vehicle? Can one of you tell me? In your travel method, what do you do? Or let me write. Why not? Let me write the code. So we have an interface called vehicle. And we have an implementation called car. Okay. And it implements vehicle.
and take bus. It's also implement on vehicles.
Sure. Exactly. And then what's the other one? Truck.
Truck.
Right. Okay. So in vehicle, what do you have? What kind of methods? Let's say start, drive, and stop. Simple methods. Is that okay? Because we are not in the beginning of the classes. We just we are not talking about any polymorphism or anything like that. So start, stop, and drive. Okay, that's all. We have these three methods, and now we implement in all of them. We know polymorphism, how it works and all. So all I'm doing here is that I don't have anything here. I'm just saying starting car. Okay. Stopping car. Driving car, right? Now starting The bus, right? So, oops. So how do you traditionally write? Traveler. Think about traveler. Okay, we have one interface, 3 implementations, and now let me go to traveler, right? So how do you guys write the code for this? Traveler wants to travel. Okay. Yeah. Public void travel. Right? So how do we travel? Vehicle. Come on, vehicle. Vehicle equal to new car, right? Like that. And then vehicle dot. He will start the vehicle. And then he will
Yes.
drive the vehicle. And then at some point, he'll
Stop
stop
the
the vehicle, right? Right? So, pretty simple code. This is how we have been doing for months. Vehicle equal to new car. Vehicle dot start, vehicle dot drive, vehicle dot stop. Now, and we also have our demo class, traveler demo. Right? So what do we do here? Traveler. We can give name. Let's say show one. Show one dot travel. And now we can run it. Any magic here? Starting card, driving card, stopping card. Yeah? Let's observe this guy here. Traveler depends on vehicle and he is getting his own dependency. This is what we have been traditionally coding. Now my point is, if traveler wants to, let's say if traveler wants to travel in bus, not in car, what do you do? Traveler wants to travel in bus, not in a car. What do you do? Hello, everybody. Traveler wants to travel in a bus, not in a car. What do you do?
We again instantiate
vehicle equal to new bus.
Exactly.
New bus.
Vehicle equal to new bus. Simple, right?
New bus.
So now
Yes.
he'll be traveling. Hey, so I'm changing the Java code to make him to change his dependency or to change his implementation. I'm not changing his dependency. Traveler depends on vehicle, but I just want to change the actual vehicle he goes on. I change the Java code, right? And not only that, it is not only that. Now, at this point, traveler and this bus are tightly coupled. So you can't change one of the implementations of the vehicle without changing the code. And number two, later we'll talk, I don't know whether we talk about it or not, but if you need to test this travel method, okay, you are not giving the flexibility for the caller to pass the appropriate vehicle. You are getting your bus, but I don't want bus. I want a dummy vehicle. For testing, I don't want to use any of the real implementations. I want to use some dummy vehicle. I can't. Unfortunately, you are getting your own vehicle. Unfortunately, you are getting your own, new bus here. You are not letting me pass a vehicle to you. Did you understand the problem at this point?
That means we are not creating new when we will use Spring or something.
No, what I'm saying at this point is this traveler is getting its own dependency by getting his bus, by getting his car, by getting his appropriate train or whatsoever, right? Whatever the vehicle, truck, right? So if I want to test this traveler, okay, whatever he is getting, I have to test that with. I want to test with a dummy vehicle. Let's say that these vehicle implementations are still getting implemented. Let's say Madhavi is working on vehicle implementations and let's say Jyoti is working on traveler class and she wants to test traveler without having to wait for the real implementations. How can she test her travel functionality? Because you hard coded here. You are getting your own dependency. Rather, is there a way that pass me whatever the vehicle that you want me to travel in and I will travel in? Why does he need to get, why traveler needs to get it? We will give, hey, I'm giving you this vehicle, why don't you travel in that? So even without using Spring, you can use the dependency injection concept just by hand, just with a simple concept. I'll show you what. So what we will do here is that, okay, look at it. Now I'll change this a little bit.
Venkat, by passing an object to travel?
Yes, exactly. So what the simplest way of doing it, this guy is vehicle. So you pass me the appropriate vehicle and all I'll do is traveler's responsibility is to start the vehicle, drive the vehicle, stop the vehicle without having to worry about what that vehicle is or how to get that vehicle. Traveler's responsibility is not to get the vehicle. Traveler will be given a vehicle and he will just travel in it. Make sense? Now, look at it. In travel demo, what I will do is, this is the original class, right? This is just a test class. So now, here I can do is vehicle v equal to new truck. Okay? And now, show one dot travel. I'm giving him this truck. I'm asking show one to travel in this vehicle that I'm passing, and he should not care about it. He somehow magically got his dependencies and that's it. He somehow magically got the dependency and all he knows is, hey, give me the vehicle and I'll travel in. But the point is, this traveler class obviously will not have only one method. Traveler will have 20 methods here. Okay? And every single method I need to pass the vehicle. Is there a better alternative now? Can you guys think of a better alternative? Everybody, this is great first step of the dependency injection. Now, the dependency has been injected by the caller, right? Perfectly. This is good. So, this traveler is not getting its own dependency anymore. So, traveler is completely decoupled with the vehicle now. He's not getting his vehicle on his own. He will be given a vehicle and traveler's responsibility is to travel it on a given vehicle. Are you guys getting it? Everybody. Now tell me, is there a better way to tackle this problem. Let's say this traveler has 20 methods, and every method, the same vehicle has to be passed by the car, by whoever calls it. That is ridiculous. Is there any better way? Or let me pick people, or Rohit, is there a better way? What can we do here? I'm sure you can answer it. So did you understand the point? My point? I have several other methods like this, okay? It's not fair to pass. You don't have to, right? You don't have to pass the same vehicle everywhere, right? Right?
Oh.
And also, yeah, forget about that also. But is there a way? Why not traveler holding a vehicle? Traveler depends on vehicle, right? Everybody? Traveler depends on vehicle. Traveler travels on that vehicle. No? Not getting anything? Antenna?
Yes.
It's okay. Venkat.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
I agree with you that the vehicle will be part of the traveler.
Sean, you're saying something? How about this one?
I'm saying it's okay. I'm saying go ahead. No problem. We're understanding.
Oh,
no
okay. No. I want you guys.
Suggest something.
Speak.
Okay. Let's think. Let me think. I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? How about this one? Traveler is holding on to vehicle, and at what point can we give this vehicle so that I don't have to pass it across all the methods?
Constructor.
Yes, that's what I was expecting.
Constructor.
Exactly. Thank you. So you can use the constructor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. This is a great concept. I'll talk about. They have given fancy names for this simple concept. So you hold on to vehicle as part of the traveler. When you create the traveler, understand this statement. This sentence is very important. When you create the traveler, you are passing the dependency. So you cannot create in this approach. I'm not saying this is the only approach. In this approach, you cannot create the traveler without creating the vehicle first, because traveler depends on vehicle. So you create the vehicle, and now you pass this vehicle to traveler, and now traveler will hold on to that. How? This dot vehicle equal to this dot vehicle equal to vehicle. Right? Traveler is holding on to that one, and now I don't need to pass this guy. I don't need to pass to anyone. Right? So traveler dot fly, whatever, you may have 100 methods, but everyone is using the same traveler is using the same vehicle, and we pass that vehicle as part of the constructor at the. So when would the constructor be called?
At the creation of traveler.
Exactly.
Instantiation.
At the time of instantiation. At the time of instantiation, your traveler will be called. So when you are instantiating the traveler itself, so let me do it slightly differently. Vehicle V equal to new truck, and now I'll pass that vehicle to Sean at the creation of the Sean itself. At the creation of traveler itself, I'm giving the vehicle, and now I don't need to give it. Agree?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this is dependency injection. There's no spring, nothing. Dependencies will not be gotten by the components. Dependencies will be passed. Dependencies will be injected. In this case, dependency has been injected by the caller. But later, what Spring does is, it's the same concept on steroids. Without you having to pass it, Spring will magically find out, and Spring will magically give you the dependencies. Now tell me, look at this code now. I want you to look at this one. I want you to look at the traveler class now, before and after. Now with this dependency injection, do I care about how I get the vehicle? Vehicle will be somehow passed to me. What is that somehow in this case? Now we have to fill in the blanks. That somehow through the constructor. My vehicle will be passed through the constructor. All my job is to use it blindly without having to worry about what that vehicle implementation is. My code does not depend on implementation. My code only depends on interface. So this is the perfect code to interface that we have been talking about for 3 months. All these while, I've been talking about code to interface, but I didn't answer one thing. Hey, you've been talking about left side and right side, you are still using new. You guys asked me a few times, and I kept deferring it. Now, you don't have the right side, because that you don't get the dependency. The dependency will be passed to you, and your responsibility is to do your job. That's all, without having to worry about which implementation it's passed at, how the magician is getting it, whoever that one is. Spring could do it. In this case, your caller itself has passed it. That's it. And there is a fancy name for this one. You know what is that? Constructor dependency. Dependency injection. Dependency injection can be done in 2 different ways. This is called constructor injection. This is called constructor injection, meaning dependencies will be injected as part of the constructor. So what happens in the case of constructor injection? You will not be able to construct traveler without having the dependencies. This is one way of doing it. Okay, now I'll show you one more. Let me show you. You will see both of them. Very popular. Both of them are popular. Let's say traveler 2. Okay, again, private vehicle is standard. Okay, but now this vehicle will not be passed, and also your travel method is also standard, but your vehicle will not be passed as part of the construction itself. Your vehicle will not be passed as part of the constructor. Your vehicle will be passed after the construction. How? Can anyone tell me how vehicle can be passed later? So I can simply do,
maybe using set.
Yeah. Just create another method.
So you guys know already, huh? You guys, knows to an extent. Okay, traveler 2 antenna equal to new traveler 2. Okay, and now antenna dot travel. But before calling any of these methods, see, at this point, if I ask him to travel, what does he travel on? And in fact, what happens in this case though? Can anyone tell me what happens if I run this 2 lines?
It will give a null pointer exception, I think.
Awesome. Awesome. That's precisely what I'm expecting because your vehicle will be null. So you will get null pointer exception. That's a precise answer I was expecting because your dependency, this case null dot start obviously throws null pointer exception, right? So what do we have to do before any method is called? We need to somehow, but the construction already done. Your construction is already done. Before any other method is called, I need to pass the dependency. How? Well, you can provide some mutator methods. That's all. There's no fancy about it. Just use public void set vehicle, probably, right? And then pass the vehicle, right? Now, whatever the vehicle that's passed, now you put it into your instance variable. That's it. So now, what do you do? Before you call any of your business methods, what you do is that you call the setter method to pass that vehicle. What is that vehicle here? In this case, it's V. Now, this guy also travels in truck. Who? Antenna is also traveling in truck. We pass the same vehicle here. Are you guys getting it? How many of you got this one? I mean, if you had gotten this one, this is called constructor injection. Dependencies will be injected as part of the constructor. And this is called, there is a fancy name for this one called, anyone?
Mutator injection, maybe. Setter injection?
Yes. Setter injection. So there are two kinds of dependency. There are two kinds of dependency injections. One is called constructor injection. Dependencies will be passed as part of the constructor itself. As part of the setter injection, first your constructor will be called, an instance will be created, but right after that, understand that right before you call any of these the travel methods, it will call these setter methods, and then pass your dependencies, and then you call any of these methods. Piece of cake. What did you understand? Dependency injection can be done without using any fancy framework like Spring. You don't have to use it. But Spring makes your life easy. Especially if you have your traveler depends on vehicle depends on engine depends on something else, whatever that one is. So imagine in that case how much code we have to first, that something else we have to instantiate it and pass it to engine. Then we have to instantiate engine, pass it to vehicle, and then instantiate vehicle and pass it to traveler. So if that dependency tree grows, that's when things get complicated. If A depends on, that's exact same thing. A depends on B. In this example, A depends on B, B depends on C, C depends on D, D depends on E. Your traveler depends on vehicle depends on engine depends on plug depends on something. So you construct this guy first, pass it to this one. That's what we did, right? We constructed a vehicle first, okay, and pass it that vehicle to traveler. Uma, did you understand now with this example? Better, everybody? Maybe I jumped the gun a little bit early on by directly going into service and DAO, but probably this one would have made it clear.
Actually, you did a good thing by really giving the bigger picture first. my opinion is that. But I've got a question about the bigger picture.
Sure, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Just hang in there. But now, are we on the same page, everybody?
Yes,
I'll introduce Spring now, and we'll use Spring
Yes.
and see how we can use Spring fanciness to make this easy. Okay, but my point here is that without using any fancy frameworks itself, dependency injection will buy you a lot. It's a clear cohesion, clear separation of your components, your loose coupling. Traveler depends on vehicle, no dependency on the vehicle implementation. Perfect, pure, 100% code to interface. Okay.
So pure polymorphism, right?
Polymorphism, we already know it. We are not talking about the polymorphism now. I mean, just the fact that vehicle has 3 different implementations to it, and based on the appropriate type that is passed, your code behaves differently. That is polymorphism, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So you can say that implementation can be changed here. So Traveler does not have any dependency on any of the implementation is my point. That's about the dependency injection. Agree, Sean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone? Any questions? No? Yeah, now you can ask Sean your question.
That is, see the EJB that you mentioned, EJB container.
Hmm.
You said that there is that it provides a runtime environment for EJB.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see the EJBs and all, from what we know right now, everything is being put into the TC. So where is the question of a separate runtime environment for them? Unless the implementations of WebSphere, WebLogic and all are quite different and they provide different.
Instead of using a Tomcat, TC meant Tomcat, I believe, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
Instead of using Tomcat, you will use the EJB containers like WebLogic. It's very similar to Tomcat, okay? But it does much more than that. That's all.
Okay.
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 Where you can deploy EJBs. See, here you can deploy servlets and JSPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you can deploy EJBs also. That's what I meant.
Okay. Okay.
By the way, just because you asked, those EJB containers have web container inbuilt, meaning they have Tomcat like servlet container also. In addition to that, but they have much more than that. Yuri, you unmuted to talk or?
Yes, I have a question. If you go back to your statement of vehicle, and then you use a private vehicle, so you declare a vehicle you pass him the vehicle as a type. This one, yes, private vehicle. So you pass an interface as a type, yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That was just to make sure.
Look at it. I'm saying it's a pure code to interface. You will not see any dependencies in the implementation format. Nobody gets, see here, vehicle, right? Because we want to get the polymorphism, right?
Yeah.
Okay, traveler depends on vehicle, but he does not get his vehicle. That's the point. His vehicle will be provided through constructor in the case of constructor injection, and by setter method in case of setter injection. So he never has to instantiate it. So you have that loose coupling, better testability, and magic happens somebody else. In this case, it's this guy is the caller itself is passing, but he doesn't have to. Anybody can. Whoever instantiate this traveler, okay, can pass the vehicle, and traveler's responsibility is to just travel it. Hey, I don't know how to get my vehicle, but you just give me the vehicle. I'll just drive. I'll just start, drive, stop. That's it.
So
Get
the
it?
limitation is, sorry.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
No problem. Sean, go ahead.
So traveler could not invoke a vehicle method which is not there in bus or car or something. He should know them.
Sorry, if there is a...
See the start, drive, and stop. So these are implemented in bus, car, and bus and car differently.
Right.
Okay. Now he shouldn't call a method that hasn't even been implemented. He should know that.
If there is a method in vehicle interface, then that means it will be implemented, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that comes from that one itself. Okay.
Right.
Certain things have become loose right now.
If he does not implement, then he'll be forced to. He will be forced to either implement it or declare that class is abstract. If it is an abstract, then you wouldn't have been able to create an instance of it. So you go further down. Somebody has to. There should be a concrete class somewhere which implements everything, and then you instantiate it and pass it to me. That's it. Agree?
Right. Yeah, that takes care of it. The system takes care of it. Okay, thanks.
Precisely. Okay, now, so we did this by hand dependency injection. We can do it, but the only thing is, as I said, if you have a lot of dependencies there, it's definitely hard for us to do it. So that's where these frameworks come into picture, and Spring Framework does a pretty good job there. Okay. Now, what happens in the case of Spring is that why? Oh, okay. What happens in the case of Spring? Exactly in this traveler vehicle case. Okay. So we have how many pieces here? We have traveler and we have vehicle. I mean, we don't care about how many implementations of vehicle are, but these are the two components that we have it. Spring calls all of these pieces. Spring calls them bean. Spring beans. Okay, this is a bean, this is a bean. As I told you, it all goes back to the Java bean, and in between EJB, we all got scared of EJB craziness, complex architecture. Now we went back to plain old Java bean. That's where this name came into picture. Bean. Everything is a bean. And now, as I was saying, so traveler will not get its vehicle. Traveler will be provided the appropriate vehicle. So in this Spring maintains a bean world. Spring maintains something called bean world. In this Spring La La Land, okay, everything is a bean. So this is a vehicle bean, this is a traveler bean, this is a customer bean, this is an order bean, all the beans like this. And this La La Land is called bean factory. It's called bean factory. We know factory. Shoe factory produces shoes. Peanut factory produces peanuts. That's it. So bean factory produces beans. So And you will never instantiate any of these beans. All of these bean life cycle will be managed by Spring Framework. Spring has something called a container. Spring has a very lightweight container. They use that container is nothing but a factory, bean factory. This bean factory, at the core of Spring container is a bean factory. Okay, that bean factory will produce the beans, will give you the beans. And from here onwards, if you want any of these beans, if you say traveler T equal to new traveler, okay, you are instantiating traveler on your own. So it is your responsibility to provide the dependencies to traveler also, if you ever do it from today. If you instantiate any bean, okay, then it's your responsibility to provide the dependencies too, either at the time of constructor or call the t.set set vehicle method either through constructor or setter. You have to do it. That is why we never instantiate on our own. Rather, Spring is already instantiating for us. We ask the Spring God or Spring's bean factory. We ask this guy. We'll say that, hey, Spring bean or Spring factory, can you give me the traveler, please? We'll say that, hey, can you give me the traveler, please? You know what it does? It will understand that, okay, then when you ask for a traveler, it will understand that, oh, okay, traveler depends on vehicle. Now let me instantiate it. It will understand that either through the constructor or setter injection, it will understand that, okay, traveler depends on vehicle, and either through constructor injection or setter injection, it will inject the vehicle into the traveler, and he will give you, or Spring will give you, the fully loaded traveler object within that vehicle is already populated. And you just say traveler.travel. Understand it one more time. So you will never instantiate a bean or any component from now onwards. You rather configure them somehow. Let's not talk about configuration. You somehow ask this Spring God or Spring bean factory, hey, bean factory, can you give me the traveler? And what it does is, it will find that traveler depends on vehicle, and vehicle depends on someone else, and someone else depends on someone else. So this someone else will be provided to this guy will be provided to vehicle, and vehicle will be provided to traveler. So we will traveler, all the way dependency chain will be, that whole wiring will be done and will be given, it will be given to you. So the fully populated traveler object will be given to you when you ask Spring for that. On the same page now? So for that, in order to get that, what we need to say is, somewhere we need to tell Spring that, hey, this is my traveler bean. Hey, this is my vehicle bean. Please. We'll just say that. This is I want you to use this implementation of vehicle, and I also want you to use this implementation of traveler. And by the way, traveler depends on vehicle. We mention those configurations somewhere. We tell Spring somehow that these two are linked. Okay? And that's all. You configure it. We are not writing the code. Writing the code is different. Writing the code is all Java code here. But now configuration is somewhere we specify. Let's say in XML. In XML file, we say that this is one bean, this is another bean, and traveler at the time of constructor, please provide this vehicle to this one, and that's it. And now you ask Spring for a traveler bean, and traveler bean will understand that this guy depends on vehicle, and vehicle will be instantiated and injected into traveler, and fully loaded traveler object will be given to you. On the same page? How do we do that? Let's look at it. But conceptually, are we on the same page? Okay. Let me build path, new source folder. So that configuration, I will show you one way of configuring these dependencies. So I'll show you one way of configuring these beans using XML. Okay, and all the XML's properties files, they all go to source main resources in Maven. If you put that XML or properties file in source main resources, it will automatically be in the class path. So I want to create a special XML called Spring Bean configuration file. So new Spring Bean configuration file, and I'll call this as Spring config XML. You can use any name, okay? And now, so here, all the rules in an XML are specified. There are rules in XML, obviously, right? You can't put your name there. So there are definitely rules in XML. All these rules are governed by XSD, XML schema definition. Okay, so this is one way of governing the rules, XML schema definition. So now there are several XSDs that Spring gives. Okay, these are all there's something called namespace to it. What we need is beans. This is the core of it. Okay, and then which version of beans do you want to use it? Just say 3.2. Next. Whatever I selected now, the beans, right? That is what it produces. That is what it produces. And you don't need to by heart, you don't need to remember, you can copy paste any day from anywhere. So don't even worry about it. But it's generally a good idea to understand XML schema definition. What is it? What is a namespace? There is a video of mine that talks about it, XML concepts very deeply. I mean, to an extent, I don't want to say very deeply, but I highly recommend that. This one. And another great concept that I've been waiting to give you as an exercise is this one. Debugging XML, XSD, SAX, DOM, JAXB. It's a very important topic. And especially here, I cover this debugging. It's very, very important. Okay. So before any of you try, without watching this video, I would say don't try. Okay. The very fundamental concepts, very important concepts. Okay. So anyways, in the beans, so what we'll do is we'll specify the beans like this. So in this La La Land, in this bean factory, everything is a bean. Okay. So we'll specify bean is a node, XML node or tag, and we'll have an ID. Every bean in this world, in this bean world, I'll call it bean world from here onwards, or bean factory. Every bean has a name to it. Name meaning like we all have social security numbers. Every bean will have an ID here. Okay. And now I'm defining a vehicle bean right now. Okay. I'm defining a vehicle. I'll say vehicle. Okay. And then bean has class. Now, so which vehicle am I providing now? Shall we ask them to drive? He has been traveling on truck, so let's ask him to travel on bus. You just BUS. You need a fully qualified class name here. Okay, since we are using STS tool, Spring Source Tool Suite, your code completion worked BUS or control space bar. Now it will give you that, but other even plain vanilla Eclipse does not give you this. Okay, you cannot code complete it. You have to type it com.raining.spring.bus. Anyways, hey, that's all. We defined a bean here. We defined this bean. Now let's define one more bean here. Bean ID equal to. We define vehicle. Now we'll define traveler. Okay. Yes, we are defining the traveler now. And who is this guy? So who is the class? Who is the implementation of the class? The traveler, right? Hey, by the way, here we don't define the interfaces. We have to provide the actual implementations in Spring Config XML only. We will not put or we will not use any of the implementations in any of the Java classes. That is why I keep saying that it's a pure code to interface, but somewhere you have to provide the implementations. That somewhere is this XML. Make sense? So bean ID equal to traveler. Now, traveler has a constructor injection, right? Look at this. Is that right? Yes. Traveler, you can't instantiate traveler without having a vehicle. So how do you do constructor injection in Spring? Well, inside the bean, you have something called constructor arg. Okay. And constructor arg, you can say, yeah, you can use index that if your constructor is taking 10 arguments, right? Now you are saying, hey, the first argument is this one, the second argument is this one, okay? Or you can use name, the name of your variable name in the constructor, okay? Since we only have one, we can directly use, or we can use constructor arg, we can directly use ref. What is a ref? Well, this is what you are saying that, hey, as part of the constructor here, as part of the first argument, because if we had 2 or 3, then we would have used index 1, 2, 3 like that. But here we only have 1. So what we are saying here is that we need to give the appropriate bean ID, because this is where we are specifying that your traveler depends on this implementation of vehicle. This is how we say that ref is another bean ID, meaning vehicle. So this is how we are saying that traveler depends on vehicle. When you go to vehicle, what does it mean? Well, oh, okay. So this traveler will be traveling in bus. This is how we specify the dependency in constructor injection. On the same page? Did you guys understand? So ref is nothing but you are referencing another bean here, saying that, okay, for this particular constructor argument, there is only one constructor, right? In this constructor argument, please use bus here. See? So what it does is now when you ask for this traveler, When you ask our Spring God, hey, can you give me the traveler? It will understand that. It will try to instantiate this guy and realizes that, oh, this traveler depends looks like on vehicle. Okay, this guy looks like he's having a constructor here, and then I need to, this guy depends on vehicle. Okay, let me then go instantiate. This guy does not have anything. So let me go instantiate this vehicle V equal to new bus, and then I'll pass that guy, traveler, as part of the constructor. On the same page? This is how dependencies are configured in La La Land, in our Spring Land. In our Spring Land, everything is a bean. Bean, 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 bean. From here onwards, everything is a bean. Did you guys get it? Anyone? Okay. That's very good. Now,
Venkat, can you make it a little larger? I can't really read the font.
Maybe I should have done it. Sorry.
No problems. I think we did it, but it's just we need for XML.
Venkat, I have one just.
Tell me, sir, 1 second. Thank you, Sean. Why it did not work? No.
It looks better now.
No.
Not this one though.
No. Oh. Which one is XML?
You have one for each. Or is that a screen level?
Not really one for each, but this is the basic. Okay. Oh, console also you want to change it? I don't think so, but XML. Oh, better? Okay.
Something happened.
Better now?
Thank you.
For bringing that up. I know it was very small earlier. Okay. So we defined vehicle here, and then we defined traveler, and we said that, hey, this traveler depends on this guy. Antenna, were you asking a question?
Oh, no. It was something that's bad. You know.
Okay, it's fine. Now, we configured these beans in this La La Land, in the Spring Land. This is all Spring Land. Spring, actually, once you bootstrap it, bootstrap meaning is another fancy word. When you load Spring, this is how Spring creates all of these beans. So I usually use this term, bean life cycle will be done by Spring, meaning, hey, remember when I talked about servlets, I told you guys that all this while you've been testing with this public static void main, you will not use public static void main anymore because the life cycle of servlets is actually controlled by your servlet container. Similarly, all of these beans life cycle is managed by Spring now. Servlet still good, still your servlet container will do it, not Spring. But all other pieces, okay, if you define them, all of them you have to define explicitly in your XML, and then those beans life cycle will be managed by Spring. Now, you never want to get traveler T equal to new traveler. If you do that, if you do new on your own, then you are not asking Spring, but ask Spring. We already configured now. So what's the next step? Anyone?
Probably going to the class and asking the configuration to give us the bean or
exactly. Asking the Spring God to give me the traveler, right? Asking the Spring God to, hey, can you give me the traveler? Then what the traveler, does it give you only the traveler or does it give you fully loaded traveler with all the dependencies injected? It will give you the traveler
with
with
dependencies.
all the dependencies injected, not just one level, nth level, all the way. If traveler depends on vehicle, vehicle depends on A depends on B depends on C depends on D, it gives you complete. D will be injected into C will be injected into B will be injected into A will be injected into vehicle will be injected into traveler, and he'll give you the travel.
So bean is that chain of dependency and all these things combined. It's an empty object, right? It gives you an empty object. Let's put it that way, if it makes sense.
Empty object.
Object with just a reference. It just gives you a reference, right?
Yes, I mean
without any data in it.
Translation. You can provide the data. Sure.
You will provide the data. Yeah, I'll be providing the data.
No, you can also. I'm saying if there are any constants, I'll show you later. Okay.
Okay.
Now, hold off on that. To ask our Spring God. Let me call it Traveler Demo 2. I need a public static void main for this one, and I'll say now. First, what I have to do is I have to ask Spring God to load the Spring config XML, right? I told you that in this whole Spring land, in the whole Spring land or a whole Spring container, right? The core is Bean Factory. There is a one more core interface. Bean Factory, by the way, is an interface. There is another core interface called application context. There is another core interface called application context. That is what we needed. Okay. This application context is what? It's a Bean Factory plus. It does a couple more things. What are those couple more things? We will iteratively learn them. But for now, application context equal to, there are several ways of loading this Spring config XML. Our goal is to load it and then ask the God, can you give me that traveler class? Fully loaded traveler class, right? Okay, there are several ways of loading it. One of the ways, the simplistic way of all the approaches, the simplistic way is, if I have my XML in the class path, can you load that for me? That is called class path XML application context. So here you are specifying the XML file name. What is your XML file name? Spring config XML. As is, it will look for this particular Spring config XML in your class path and will load it, and it will give you application context is interface. Again, we are coding to interface left side. So you're actually doing a new, but you're doing actually loading the Spring. This is loading the Spring. You have to do it. This is nothing to do with your code. Okay? And now this is your God. From here onwards, application context is your God. Now you ask your God, can you give me the bean? Okay? Can you give me the bean? You have a couple of ways of getting it. One is you can give which class, which bean do you want it by class. You can ask for it. Okay? Or if you know the bean ID, this is the bean ID, you can ask with the bean ID also. But here I'm asking with the class. Hey, I know you are a bean factory holding thousands of beans. Can you please give me a bean of this type, please? And here also, you don't have to ask by the implementation class. You can ask for the interface class. You know that? You can ask for the interface here. But since we don't have it, Traveler does not have an interface. But ideally, Traveler also should have an interface. If you have it, you can ask for, hey, can you give me a bean with this type? So that we never have to write the actual implementations. We always code interface. Everywhere interface. So everywhere polymorphism, everywhere dependencies, we don't care about it. Everywhere it's loose coupling. Everywhere it's more testing. So it's all good goodies. Okay. Traveler equal to context dot get bean. This is your guard. Guard, can you give me the bean with this type? Oh yeah, it gave you. But by then, your traveler is fully loaded. If you get, what happens if you do like this? What happens if you do like this? New traveler equal to new traveler. What happens? If you do like that, meaning you are managing the life cycle of traveler, Spring is no way is in the picture. Spring is no way in the picture. So Spring doesn't know that it has to inject the dependencies and all. You are creating it.
And
you are not asking Spring.
And moreover, I have to really take care of doing the dependency myself.
Exactly.
A lot of work. Right?
Exactly. And you never want to do that. Ask your Spring. And now traveler.travel. Hey, I don't have to inject this guy. I don't have to inject vehicle. I don't have to do any of that. That's all configured. Coding is different from configuration. Understand that? Hey, starting bus, driving bus, stopping bus. Look at it. This one is actually your Spring is loading it. These few lines, these 3 lines. See here, default listable bean factory. So define the beans. So in your Spring La La Land, it found 2 beans. One is with the ID vehicle. The other one is with the ID traveler. Okay. And it's loading the Spring config XML. That is what it's saying. And now, hey, I want my traveler to travel truck now, not bus, but I want him to travel in truck. What do? Anyone? Do I change any line of code somewhere?
Passes parameter.
Where?
In traveler.class.
Exactly. Change in Spring config XML. Just configuration change, no more code change. Because you code anywhere, you're specifying the implementation. Nope. Only interface. And then in your traveler class, anywhere you are specifying, no. He's not getting his vehicle. Spring is injecting the vehicle into traveler. So all you have to do is just change this guy to truck. That's it. No code changes, nothing. Now he will drive a truck. Now I want to change this to car. He will do it. He will travel in car now. Beautiful. Right? Now, your traveler class is completely free of any dependency retrieval, meaning no implementations. The beauty is the testing. Now, so Spring will provide you through the Spring config XML, but you want to do a testing of this guy. Go for it. See here, this is how you tested it, right? This is how you test it, and the real code will be using the Spring config XML. So, are you guys understanding it? The real code will be using the Spring config XML, but meanwhile, I want to test my traveler. Sure, meanwhile, you can say vehicle V equal to not new truck, because truck hasn't been implemented yet. New dummy vehicle. You create your own dummy implementation, and then, because traveler will not be getting its vehicle. It's dependency injection, we are passing it. So vehicle V equal to new dummy vehicle, and now I can pass this dummy vehicle to this guy. And now, once whoever is implementing the actual vehicle, once they come in, it's magic happens. My traveler works as is. So that's why it makes your testing a lot easier. I don't think you have gotten that testing point into your bloodstream yet, but I will give enough time to really, because you don't have that testing in your bloodstream yet. That whole unit testing, those cells are not wired up fully yet. So you are not as much excited as I am. I know that. you need time for that. You have to play with it. And then definitely we can talk again later. Okay. Maybe towards the end of the class, if you guys are so interested, I'll talk about mocking, and then you will really enjoy what I mean by how Spring or dependency injection concept makes your life so easy with testing.
So it's basically stubbing out the
Yes.
service, like using tools like ITKO, Lisa, where we can virtualize the services, web services.
Yep.
Okay.
You can not only for web services, actually. I'm just saying in the case of Traveler, look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Traveler depends on vehicle. Now you are implementing vehicle, and I'm writing Traveler code. Okay. You and I agreed on this interface, Jyoti. So, but you are doing the real implementation. But anywhere am I dependent on implementation? No. What I will do is, you said you will take a couple of weeks to implement vehicle. What I will do is, I will go ahead and implement a dummy implementation, because my intention is not to test your code. My intention is, if vehicle is provided, is my Traveler code working like it should, is my goal. So that's how, that's why I will go for stubbing of this one, or dumbing, or mocking is the right word actually. So there are a lot of mocking frameworks. So anyways, did you get the point, Jyoti?
Yes.
For your specific question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I want to do is, this is how the constructor injection happens. Now let's do a setter injection. This guy, Traveler 2 is doing a setter injection, right? So how do we do a setter injection? Now, what I'll do is, my Traveler 2. Now, this guy, constructor, not a constructor org, because constructor that takes your vehicle, right? This is a setter injection, meaning you do a simple constructor, but after that you have to call the set vehicle method. So what Spring does is, it provides a way called property. Property name equal to, what is your property name? Vehicle. And then your, okay, well, what type do you want me to pass vehicle? Please pass this guy. You know what it does? Here, name equal to vehicle. Whatever the property name that you give it, it will put automatically set to that. Set uppercase V EHICLE, and it will call this set vehicle method, and it will pass you this vehicle. Which vehicle? Referenced by a bean ID called vehicle, which is your car. Now your car will be passed to you. In your Java, this is equivalent to something like this. Vehicle V equal to new car. If you were to write on your own, right? And then Traveler 2 equal to new Traveler 2. Okay. And then you're doing Traveler 2 dot set vehicle. See here? And then I'll pass this guy. I mean, not really V, but this is the ID. Like that. See here? Set vehicle. If you give ABC here, name equal to ABC, Spring will call set ABC method there. If you give vehicle there, Spring will call set vehicle there. If I give ABCD, then Spring tries to call Spring ABCD. So the name of the property following Java Bean naming convention, yeah, it's okay. It will call set this method, set A B C D, like that. Okay, that is why you have to call, what is your setter method here? Vehicle. So set vehicle will be called now, and this guy will be passed. And now your traveler demo 2 is pretty simple. Now you're asking God for a traveler 2. God, can you give me the bean with the class traveler 2? Or you can ask now with the bean ID. You can ask this guy. Second flavor. Okay. Hey, can you give me traveler 2? T2 equal to. Okay. And now obviously this is the bean ID. You're giving the bean ID. So java.lang.object. So what you have to do? You have to typecast it. That is why I don't like the bean ID. And number 2, bean ID you will not be able to change. You'll not be able to change in Spring Config XML. You have to change your Java class too. I don't like this approach, but I'll show you. That's it. See? No, just comment this guy. Comment this guy. So it does setter injection here. It will call the set method of your property and pass the dependency to that guy. That's it. This is your setter injection, and this is.
Venkat, where are you explicitly mentioning the setting task?
This guy, property name equal to vehicle. If you say property name equal to vehicle, Spring understands that this is a setter injection, and Spring takes your name, okay, your vehicle, and then it will prepend set and changes the case to uppercase of your first letter, and then it will using reflection, it will call the set vehicle method, and it will give whatever the object that it has got from this guy, from this reference. Any confusion there? Sure.
So
anyone?
No. Can I see that vehicle.java one?
Yeah, that's never changed.
Oh no, that is okay. Where is the set traveler.java, right?
Traveler 2.
Okay.
This guy.
Okay. Got it.
You need to provide set vehicle method, okay? And which takes the vehicle, but that will be called. You will never call it.
Okay, but if there is another method in that class, then will there be any confusion, or it will go to set vehicle only?
No confusion. Whatever you give here, name equal to vehicle, name equal to, let's say, shown, it will call the set shown method. You make sure there is a set shown method. Spring will call it. Okay. Understand? If you say ABC, Spring will call set ABC. First, it will instantiate it and then call the ABC and give it to. It will call the set ABC and use this vehicle, and you make sure there is a set ABC method.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, uppercase. I don't have to say that. That's Java Bean convention. You have to follow the Java Bean convention. And I've been saying something. For the last 1 month or so, I've been saying that Java Bean convention, you have to follow the Java Bean convention. A lot of frameworks depend on it. A lot of frameworks. How many times I told you? One of them is Spring Framework. Okay. Antenna, you have a question.
Yeah. In case if we want to initialize some of the fields or the attributes, is there any other element node other than the property for constant values or setting the field value?
Absolutely. So if you want to pass something like, let's say, traveler 2, right? Best example probably is name. Okay? Yeah, I get also I can leave it there. Well, why not, right? So now I'll put this guy here. It's more meaningful. Name.
And they have to be public void, right? Public, right?
Which one?
The variables that you put over there and the set and all those things, methods, they were all public returns, right?
I mean, your fields are private, but these methods will be public, yeah.
Methods will be public, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, look at it. Look at it. Name equal to name, right? Your set name method will be called now. Your set name method will be called, and since you asked, value equal to, here it's a hard-coded value, not another bean here, right? Here, I want to say antenna. Make sense? Now, antenna is traveling. You got it?
Yeah.
So what's happening here? It calls us a new traveler2, and then it will call the set vehicle, and then it will call the set name. So both of them are, both the dependencies, vehicle and name, have been injected. And now, when you call the set travel method, you're saying name is traveling, so antenna is traveling. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's all a game of key value pairs, right? Dictionaries and all that.
Which one? This
like,
one?
Like in the XML, you put all those things internally. That name and value, they will become key values, right?
No, it's actually a method called set name will be called with the value antenna.
Yeah, true. But internally, it'll probably set up some. You don't?
Okay. No, it doesn't.
Okay.
I mean, internally meaning to traveler to know. Are you saying Spring internal?
Spring internal.
Oh, Spring internal. Yes, it maintains that. Yes.
Yeah, because we are not having handle to that key value pair. I'm just saying internal to it. It's just a game of key values, actually.
Yes. Speaking of Spring internals, yes.
Like get parameter, when it comes down with the key value. We don't see the key value.
Exactly.
But we just access it.
You got it.
Thanks.
Yes, Shailaja.
Yes, Venkat. Actually, if traveler has method overriding, not method overloading, in that case, how it behaves, like if you give property name equal to vehicle, right? Then it looks for the set vehicle method. At that time, it has two methods like set vehicle.
One second. So, say that again.
Yeah, if traveler has a set vehicle of two methods, right? Method overloading. So at that time, how it differentiate with the two methods?
That's a good point. So you have your constructor args. That is where your index come into picture. Okay. If you have two constructors that are overloaded, so what happens here is that
we need to pass the arguments also, right?
Oh yeah. So what you'll do is that, I mean, there's a couple of strategies here, not one way of doing it. Index equal to 1. Okay, and then I think it's double quotes probably. Index equal to 1, then index equal to 2. So based on your type reflectively, yeah, I mean, it doesn't match the constructor is what it's saying. So it's too smart. But the point is that if you have an overloaded constructor that takes 1 parameter, 2 parameters, 3 parameters, right?
Okay.
Now you provide 3 parameters. One, you just say, hey, this is my first, this is my second, this is my third, and it will automatically calls the third a method that takes 3 parameters. So it knows that guy.
Okay, Venkat.
Reflectively, again, using the power of reflection. Under the hood, it's all reflection. It's not a...
Wow, that's great. Just index 1, index 2. That differentiates it.
Yeah, but the reason you want to use the index is without using the index also we can achieve it. That's why I'm saying there is not one single solution for that. You don't have to use index as long as, again, it's saying it doesn't match with your constructor. Okay. So if you have a constructor that takes 2 arguments, it will automatically call it based on it's realizing that, oh, this guy has 2 constructor args. So let me call the constructor that takes 2 parameters. And now if you give the third one, it will say that, okay, this guy is having 3. Let me call the constructor that takes 3 parameters. Okay. But the index come in handy if you are not using it in exact sequence. If you're not using it, let's say I want to use, because by default it takes in the exact same sequence. This is your first argument, this is your second argument, this is your third argument. But if you want to go little like this is my first argument. Okay, this is my third argument. This is when your index come in handy. Okay. But index I will not use it to. There is a different attribute called name. I will use name. Name is your in the constructor, your variable name itself. Make sense? Okay, so I'll change this guy to Spring. I don't like Spring, but I'll just call it Spring 1 Feb 2015 or something, whatever. We've been following that standard, so probably in POM also, though it doesn't matter. Spring 1 Feb 2015. Okay. Any questions? No? Then I'll stop here. I think it's a logical step. If I say anything more than it and introduce it, it'll be too much. So we'll stop here, and then what we'll do is in the next class, we'll take these concepts and introduce Spring now into our eShop. Okay? And we isolated the service layer. Now we will make solid service layer. Okay? And then I'll show you how your servlet will call the God and say that, hey, can you give me the service layer? Can you give me the service, please? And what it does is it will give you the fully loaded DAO object into service, and it will give you the fully loaded service object. Now, are you guys getting it? After this simple example, now can you connect the dots now?
Yeah. Venkat, so we need to know Maven for this, right? We cannot avoid.
I mean, yeah, it helps definitely.
Okay.
See, all I did here is that I just put this dependency because I don't want to. The main reason is to make my life easy. I don't want to gather all the dependencies of these jar files, and you need Maven anyway, right? I mean, you need to learn some Maven anyway.
No, I was just planning my own. Reading, because Maven, since it's a side issue, service issue, I was wanting to put it on the side on the bay for now.
Right.
So I was thinking whether we could avoid Maven and go.
You can absolutely. You can still avoid Maven, no problem.
How could I do that for now? See, I need the POM. I see the POM.
Yeah. POM. You copy paste. What's the big deal? This is the only dependency. You know what it is without having to spend hours on, watching video. You just copy paste it, right?
Okay.
What you don't know, right? What you don't know is you don't know how you got this, maybe transitive dependency and those things. Maybe not in your bloodstream yet, but that's okay. But still, you can.
It was last year. It was. I forgot.
Right.
Actually, but anyway. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it with that.
Okay.
So Venkat, I have one question. So if you're analyzing some code, it always makes sense to look at the XML file first, right? if there is one?
That's a broad statement. I can't say, no, I don't want to say that. I want to say that understand the life cycle first,
Okay.
and then understand the first dot and whatever that first dot is. That first dot could be XML, that first dot could be Java class. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to say blindly that start with XML, because in this case, this is the starting point. In this starting point, let's say I've used the Spring config XML and here I've used test.xml. Then by looking at XML for the whole day still does not help because I've used the wrong XML. So we need to know where is the starting point. In the web container, perfect sense, web.xml is the starting point. We know that. That is why it's called deployment descriptor. Web.xml is called deployment descriptor.
Right, yeah.
Web.xml, index.xml, and follow through all the XMLs and then go to the Java programs, all those things, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Follow the life cycle. I wanted to say that.
Can you check in eShop 3 also?
eShop 3. What did we do in eShop 3? Oh, the service layer.
3,
We did not finish the service layer. Can you guys finish it? Can you do it, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have it over there then, and also Spring.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay. Now there is one problem that I am having. Maybe if this is the time to discuss that. That is MVC1_2015. That one is coming as something else in my system. Is that right or wrong? That's coming as one second. Holy shit. That's coming as JSP-EL Feb 2015. What does that mean? I checked out MVC1 2015 and it became JSP-EL Feb 2015. Does it make any sense?
I don't know.
I can show it to you.
Yeah, we have it as MVC1_2015.
Correct. I saw that too in your SVN. But as I'm checking it out, it's becoming JSP-EL 2015. I can show it to you right now by checking out. See, it says JSP-EL 2015, Java training, Venkat, Google, etc. Trunk : MVC1_2015. It's referring there. I don't know how this is happening.
Okay, yeah, let me take a look at it.
Okay. Shit. Okay. Now, here is my JSP-EL 2015. Okay, I'm deleting it for now.
Delete the project. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I always forget that. Okay. What the hell is that?
Can you delete that? Delete one more time. No. Delete the cancel. Can you give me the control?
Sure. Take it. Given.
Thank you. Okay.
It didn't delete yet.
It did, right?
No, it's there.
Where?
I can see it's still over there. You can't?
Can you highlight?
Over here. See?
Where?
Let me refresh.
No, highlight wherever you're seeing it.
Yeah, I've highlighted it here.
That is JDBC Feb 2015.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm seeing the wrong one. Okay, forget about it. Let's now go to. Okay, yeah, you do it. Go to SVN.
Okay. Right. Okay. This is good. What? What are we looking for? MVC.
Yeah, MVC. That's the one. Right? Check it out. Yeah. Yeah, now let's come back. Refresh if you want. See, it's coming as that.
Yeah, it's because your JSP, sorry, MVC1 2015 somehow your Eclipse project somehow it is creating as that. So what you do is it's just Eclipse project name. Somehow earlier you did it or something. So find or check out as. Now we can give whatever the name. See, checkout as a project with the name specified. That is the problem. So what you do is check out MVC1 2015. It's nothing to do with the backend side, but you checked out as a new project with a given name.
That was sitting over there. Okay, that's fine. Maybe that's the reason.
See, it's just your project name. That's all. It's nothing on the backend side.
Check out as. Okay, check out as. And where can I get that JSTEL 2015? The genuine 2015 JSPEL. That one is still there. I can check it out now.
Let's check. 1 second. I'll make myself presented now. Okay, so what we will do now is, because this one has been giving some problems, right? I don't know why, but so what I'll do is team disconnect, also delete SVN metadata. Now team share project subversion. Let's see what it says now.
Did anybody else have problem with JSPEL 2015? Nobody heard me.
Yes, in my Eclipse class it is doing like that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, done. JSPL Feb 2015, so take care of it. Okay. It's done now.
So it's there in SVN and I have to only check it out.
Yep, look at it. JSPL Feb 2015. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I go there, I go over there, and then how do I refresh your area? Okay, over here, refresh. Okay, refresh, fine.
Okay,
now
guys.
I should see JSPL.
Stopping the recording.
Yeah, sure.